Hello, babes. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new, welcome. So, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite Rihanna fashion eras, and that's her rated R era. It is so underrated because Rihanna is such a mega icon with so many impactful eras. This is one people don't talk about nearly enough. We always bring up the bright red loud era or good girl gone bad era, and rightfully so. But baby, when I tell you this was the birth of the fashion icon Rihanna we know today. Of course, Good Girl Gone Bad was the era where she started breaking out of her shell, but Rated R was the moment Rihanna said F everything that was thrown at me, especially after the horrific abuse she endured from Chris Brown. This was when she fully stepped into her bad gal era and completely took control of her image. So, let's get into it. Now, the hair, the fashion, the music, everything about this era was intentional. And we don't talk about Rated R enough. It's one of her most compelling albums. I play it every year, and from beginning to end, it still remains such a raw, vulnerable album. The emotions she evokes in these songs, especially in Cold Case Love, you hear the pain. I'll definitely do a video discussing this album because it is one of my favorites. At the same time, I completely understand why Rihanna doesn't revisit those songs because of everything she was going through while making them. This was the era of blonde, pixie cut Rihanna, the 27-piece Rihanna, the dark lipstick, the structured blazers, the leather, the sky-high platform heels. She was giving us dark glam rock, and it was like the rebirth of Rihanna. Now, I don't know if I have any millennial girlies here who remember Tumblr and We Heart It specifically, but baby, that's where I got all of my Rihanna, Beyonce, Janet, and fashion photos from to post on my Tumblr page. Rihanna, Beyonce, Gaga, and Nicki Minaj dominated Tumblr at the time. Navy, you know what I'm talking about because there was a Tumblr page named F Yeah Rihanna, and baby, one of my favorite Tumblr pages where I got and reposted a lot of my Rihanna pictures, and there is a specific picture during this era that I was obsessed with. And if you know and are a Rihanna fan, y'all know exactly which picture I'm talking about. The one with the oversized glasses, the black and blonde streaked hair, pink lipstick, the blazer layered over the feathered skirt, the Louboutins with the bow on the front. Let me tell you something. This picture was everywhere. Facebook profile pictures, Tumblr dashboards, phone wallpapers, the entire photo shoot, yes, but this picture right here and her Glamour magazine photo shoot, I am still in love with those pictures as well. They're not over the top, they're simple but have that glamour to them, and she just looks beautiful in the pictures. This had the girls in an absolute tizzy, but this picture and this photo shoot, if we didn't already know, solidified Rihanna was the it girl. But this era was so powerful because of how much hate she was receiving. While yes, some media had her back, a lot of the people, especially in our community, was so disgusting towards her because they worship men, regardless of what that man does. But there is nothing I love more than seeing a woman rip off the restraints society tries to place on us and say, F you, I'm dressing for me, I'm living for me, I'm being myself, and if you don't like it, well, that's too damn bad. That is exactly what Rihanna embodied during this era. Her fashion became a symbol of rebellion. She gave us dark, grungy, moody, rock star Rihanna. Fashion has always reflected the culture and emotions of the moment. And in the late 2000s, we were seeing a shift away from polished pop glamour toward darker, edgier influences inspired by punk rock and high fashion. And Rihanna was one of those people who pushed those exact trends forward and helped usher in a new era of fashion and redefined fashion at the time. This is why there will never be another Rihanna. She has always been unapologetically herself, which is funny because she would later come out with an album titled Unapologetic. She never chased what someone else was doing or tried to become another artist. Rihanna would actually do the opposite. Rihanna set trends because she was a leader, not a follower. She just had it. The beauty, the charm, the fashion, the aura, that magnetic pull that made people just as interested in what she was wearing as they were in the music. Like I always say, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being inspired. We all get inspired, but there is a huge difference between inspiration and imitation. Rihanna's wardrobe during this era was dark, as I said before, grungy, sexy, and bold as hell. Of course, Rihanna had always been fearless, but this time her clothes reflected exactly where she was emotionally. She leaned into sharp tailoring, leather, oversized blazers, the structured suits, dramatic shoulders, the shoulder pads, lace-up platform pumps, and over-the-knee boots. She pulled inspiration from 80s power dressing and rock culture, but made it completely modern and unmistakably Rihanna. That's what separates true style from simply copying trends. Even when Rihanna is inspired by something, she never mirrors it exactly. She transforms it into something that feels fresh and uniquely hers, which is how trends are created. She definitely brought back shoulder pads and made them look good and feel cool again. She embraced dramatic silhouettes, heavy hardware like studs, spikes, leather, and like I often stress to you babes, the importance of tailoring. Rihanna's clothes was tailored to her perfectly. She wasn't dressing for approval, she was wearing her emotions. Her wardrobe reflected her anger, her pain, her confidence, her vulnerability, and ultimately her freedom. Her influence became palpable yet again, just as it had during her previous era. Stores started filling up with shoulder pads, shorts with spikes and jackets with spikes, studs, military inspired jackets, the blazers and platform shoes. Rihanna has always been an innovator, and that's why I laugh when people try to criticize her appearance, especially as of late, forgetting that Rihanna is the blueprint and Rihanna is the trendsetter. She will always be that girl. She will always be beautiful. She will always be an icon, and she will always be your fave's fave. All up on it, know you wanna clone it. Ain't like me, that dick and phone it. She never had to force an image because she was never pretending to be someone that she wasn't. This was and still is Rihanna. Her fashion always reflected where she is in life, not what another celebrity is wearing. People were cutting their hair like Rihanna, recreating her outfits, cut off denim jackets, and she just made you want to be a rock star. And what I love so much about Rihanna is that she's not afraid to tap into not just different genres of music, but also different styles when it comes to fashion. And as a young black girl watching Rihanna as I grew up, that was one of the things that I loved so much about her, because sometimes people look at black people as a monolith, especially sometimes our own community. And what I love so much about Rihanna is that she didn't care. She was going to step outside of the box and do whatever she wanted to do. She wasn't going to dress how people think she should dress. She was going to dress how Rihanna wanted to dress. And what also needs to be said is that this was such an organic era. Yes, social media existed, but CDs were still selling in huge numbers. There were no streaming parties, there weren't bots, and no playlists manipulating numbers. People actually stood outside stores, bought albums with their own money, waited in line for CD signings, and genuinely supported the artists they loved. I bought this album with my own money, and I rode hard for Rihanna during this era, especially because of the disgusting things people were saying while defending a man, yet again, who harmed a woman. But this era completely redefined Rihanna as an artist. She was grown. She was 21 at the time, which I don't think people understand that. Yes, while she was 21, she was still young, and what she was dealing with was a lot. She had found her voice, and she wasn't allowing anyone to control her image anymore. Society constantly expects women to be nice, agreeable, and perfect role models, but Rihanna rejected all of that. She was done. She wasn't going to let people tell her she couldn't be sexy, couldn't express herself, or couldn't live on her own terms because, like I said before, she was a grown woman.
You've introduced this crazy game to a lot of kids who perhaps weren't aware of it before. You think about the impact on them suddenly discovering this game through you?
This time around, I wasn't so concerned about a demographic or what people thought. I was in a very deep place and I had a lot to say.
This was also the era she gave her fans the name Navy.
We're an army, better yet a navy, better yet crazy.
This was the era we truly met bad gallery. This was the era fashion houses really started paying attention. Of course, they did before, but this era, we had Balmain, Gucci, Alexander McQueen, Chanel. Everybody wanted Rihanna wearing their pieces because they understood what she represented as well as the influence that she had. She could put on a 6-inch platform pump, an oversized blazer, or a pair of over-the-knee suede boots and make the entire industry pay attention as well as the public. This was the era Rihanna solidified herself as not just a fashion icon, but as someone completely in a lane of her own.
Rated R really stands for me, and I stand for a lot of things. My image is very sexy, and that's just the way I am, though. I don't dress a certain way to appease anyone. Actually, it makes a lot of people very angry the way I dress, but I just like dressing like that because that's me. That's who I am.
It was definitely the beginning of me expressing myself as an artist in a very true way. But even more on this album, it's a big growth even since the last album. It's more personal, it's more honest, and it definitely opens up people to a lot that goes through my mind. They never know what I'm thinking, so I express it in my music.
Fashion has always been about self-expression. Sometimes it says the things you can't put into words, and I think that's exactly what Rihanna did during the rated R era. She poured her emotions not only into the music, but into her wardrobe as well. I truly believe fashion became a part of her healing process. Rock, to me, was the perfect genre for this album because it gave her a space to channel that pain, anger, and vulnerability into something creative. Of course, she still gave us that feminine, sexy version of Rihanna, but there was an undeniable darkness to her style that reflected exactly where she was emotionally. That's why her next album, Loud, felt so liberating. Everything became brighter, more colorful, and more carefree. It was Rihanna had shed all of what she had gone through in the rated R era and stepped into a new chapter. If there's one thing I think people should learn from Rihanna and her approach to fashion, it's that fashion is a tool for expressing your authenticity. It's one of the most powerful ways to build your own identity and create a personal brand that genuinely feels like you. Once you stop dressing for everyone else and start dressing for yourself, everything else begins to fall into place naturally. So many artists tried to recreate her formula afterward, but it never worked because Rihanna wasn't playing a character, she was simply being herself. And this was what she did. She loved fashion. And I truly believe that's why this era still resonates today. It wasn't just about the clothes, it was about a woman reclaiming her identity, finding her confidence again, and using fashion as one of the ways to tell that story. Our forever it girl and our forever fashion icon. And with that being said, this video has come to an end. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hype the video. Make sure your notification bells are turned on so that you always know when I upload. And I will catch you guys in the next one.